This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airways of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Stephen A. Smith Show being brought to you by Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. So much stuff to get into. So much stuff that I cannot even begin to describe. I got so much stuff on my mind, I don't even know where to start. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't even know where to start. By the way, like I was saying, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Before I even get into it, when was the last time you checked your credit scores? Know what they are now, not from a year ago, with Credit Karma. Credit Karma makes knowing your credit scores simpler and easier to understand. Learn more at creditkarma.com or download the Credit Karma app. That's Credit Karma, Karma.com. Listen, there's a whole bunch of stuff to get into because there's some developments that are taking place as the NFL draft approaches. The Cleveland Browns suddenly are strongly considering taking Baker Mayfield with the number 1 overall pick. If you're New York, that's a problem because you have Baker Mayfield going number 3 to you, because you certainly didn't anticipate the New York Giants taking him with the number 2 overall pick. They would take Saquon Barkley. They'd probably take Sam Darnold, but they wouldn't think about taking Baker Mayfield. The Jets were, however, and as a result, now the Cleveland Browns are talking about whether they're considering taking Baker Mayfield with the number 1 overall pick. If they're doing so, whoa. If they're not doing so, it's probably because they're bluffing, because they're trying to make the Jets forfeit something so the Jets can move up with them and ultimately grab Baker Mayfield themselves. We don't know what's going on, but that's something we'll get into as the show progresses today. Make no mistake about it. In the meantime, we've got some NBA action to talk about. I am coming at you live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I am in this city because I expect tonight is when the Philadelphia 76ers will take out the Miami Heat in 5 games. They will advance to the semifinals of the Eastern Conference. I believe they will beat the Boston Celtics next. After that, after they beat Boston, they will face Toronto or Cleveland. It depends on which Cleveland shows up. If the supporting cast shows up to support LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers will advance to the conference finals. If they don't, it will be Toronto. Either way you slice it, I have made my proclamation 24 hours ago. The Philadelphia 76ers are going to the NBA Finals this year. They will beat the Boston Celtics. They will beat Cleveland or Toronto, and they are going to the NBA Finals. It is that simple. That is why I'm in the city of brotherly love tonight, because anybody that knows me knows my brother, Dwayne Wade, a superstar player for years, unquestionably a first ballot Hall of Famer, a 3-time champion, somebody who's going to 5 NBA Finals. I expect tonight to be the last game of Dwayne Wade's career. I have no idea whether it's true. I have no idea whether he is going to retire because I have not spoken to him directly about this subject. But I've known him for a long time. I know what I'm seeing. I know how he wants to go out. And I don't believe in my heart that he'll put himself through another year of this. He's averaging 12 points a game. In the 21 games he's played with Miami this year, he's averaged 12 points on 40% shooting. Now, he showed up in game 2 when he dropped 28 on the Sixers. He showed up in game 4 on a loss when he dropped 25 on the Sixers. But doing it night in and night out, that's not what he can do anymore. And sticking around through a grueling 82-game season just to show up every other game in the playoffs, I don't think that's what he's about. I think ultimately what this comes down to is that Dwayne Wade, in my opinion, may very well be playing his final game of his NBA career, which is why I'm that much more ecstatic that he's back with the Miami Heat, a place he should have never left, a place he should have never departed from, an organization he should have never departed from. That's how I'm looking at it. Knowing Dwayne Wade, he wants to do everything, and he intends to do everything he can to make sure that this isn't his last game, because if it ends, he wants it to end in Miami. He damn sure doesn't want it to end in the city of Philadelphia. But I think this is it. I think this is it. And I had to be here for this. That's why I'm here. I expect the Philadelphia 76ers to win this game tonight and close out this series. One of the reasons I was excited about today's show is I'm excited by what I'm seeing from the Utah Jazz. Ladies and gentlemen, they're legit. For those who still want to argue with me about Rookie of the Year honors, saying Ben Simmons is the clear-cut Rookie of the Year, I'm not on that bandwagon. I think Ben Simmons is a superstar. If I had to pick between the two, I'd pick Ben Simmons. You ain't going to find a 6'10" point guard with those ball handling and passing skills. But your rookie year isn't not about what we project you to be, or isn't about flashes of what we see you being. It's about what you've done. And during the regular season, having Embiid and Redick and about 3 or 4 other shooters at his disposal, I think was incredibly helpful to Ben Simmons. And I look at Donovan Mitchell and the load that he had to carry for the Utah Jazz as its number one offensive option. And to me, Donovan Mitchell and what he accomplished for Utah in the Western Conference was greater than what Ben Simmons accomplished in Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference. Very simple to me. And in terms of their postseason production, I know that Ben Simmons is averaging damn near triple-double. Have you seen what Donovan Mitchell's been doing? Did you see what he did last night? With 33 points against Oklahoma City? It's special. It cannot be ignored. And there's something that needs to be said about that. Now, there's a couple of storylines that comes with this OKC-Utah series. It's worth leading with because it's bigger than just that game. It's bigger than just these individual players. It's something bigger than that. When we look at Russell Westbrook, there is no question that he is a superstar. We haven't seen any player in NBA history average back-to-back triple-doubles because back in those days, they weren't keeping numbers, these kind of statistics when Oscar Robertson was doing what he was doing. But let's acknowledge something here that's incredibly important. When we look at Russell Westbrook talked a lot of smack leading into Game 4 last night because Ricky Rubio had a triple-double in Game 3. As a result of that triple-double in Game 3, Russell Westbrook said, "Are we going to shut that bleep down?" I guarantee you that. That's what he said. And the next thing you know, Russell Westbrook comes out there last night, hell-bent on shutting him down, Ricky Rubio down, and one would argue he got so caught up in the individual matchup that he forgot this was a team game and you didn't need to be preoccupied with that kind of nonsense. As a result, Russell Westbrook played 35 minutes, had 23 points, okay, and 14 rebounds. But it's the same Russell Westbrook that had 4 fouls in the first half. It's the same Russell Westbrook that seemed a bit emotional and erratic because of it. Meanwhile, post-game, when Ricky Rubio was being interviewed by my brother Dennis Scott, what did Ricky Rubio say? It's about the team. I wasn't worried about anything but winning the game. It's not one-on-one basketball. It's a team game. Right answers came out of his mouth. Right temperament came out of his mouth. Meditating and poised before the game, which was something that Russell Westbrook clearly was not. And so as a result, you ask yourself and you look at Russell Westbrook and you see how folks were pointing the finger at him about him being the problem with this team and how Kevin Durant got busted on Instagram as far as I'm concerned. No matter what his denials are, he got busted. Talk about it was a mistake. There was no way that he intentionally did that. Whatever. Nobody believes Kevin Durant on this. And Kevin Durant seemed to have wanted to send a message. That's why I left. Which is obviously a big indictment against Russell Westbrook. Now, Russell Westbrook probably don't give a damn. He won't hesitate to tell you he doesn't give a damn. But that's probably what Russell Westbrook would say if he said anything. Here's the reality of the situation. Russell Westbrook has played with Serge Ibaka. He's played with James Harden. He's played with Kevin Durant. He's played with Victor Oladipo. He's played now with Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. And there will be no championship to show for it. Now, some of you might use that as an excuse to hold Russell Westbrook accountable. I won't do that to him. He is a superstar extraordinaire. Regardless of how erratic he is, he needs coaching. He needs somebody to reel him in. I'd want Russell Westbrook on my team. any day of the week. He doesn't cheat you every single night. He gives max effort. He's mercurial. He can score at will. He's an offensive juggernaut when he wants to be. Plus, he can still average double digits with assists and rebounds. I'm sorry. His temperament, notwithstanding, regardless of its imperfections, I'm taking Russell Westbrook any day of the week. Now, I'm not taking him over Steph Curry. I'm not taking him over the James Hardens of the world. But I'm taking him. He's one of those elite players that I'm going to take with me along the way without question. Without question. And was it Bush League for Kevin Durant to like that Instagram post? Of course it was. But I'm going to tell you where I think people are slipping up with this. First of all, they want to look at Russell Westbrook and they want to say, hey, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant has a point. I don't view it that way. Because Kevin Durant went to the Warriors. Kevin Durant didn't leave Russell Westbrook. Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, a team that he was up 3-1 on. Couldn't close the deal. Ended up losing a best of 7 Western Conference Finals series and joined them a month later. Had he gone anywhere else, I wouldn't say that. He could have gone to San Antonio. I would say nothing. He could have gone to the Clippers with Blake Griffin and CP3 and DeAndre Jordan. I wouldn't have said a word. I wouldn't have said a word. He could have gone to Miami. How about the nation's capital where John Wall and Bradley Beal were in the Eastern Conference? He could have gone there and went up against LeBron and kept LeBron from going to the finals. He did no such thing. He went to the Golden State Warriors. He went to the absolute trump card that existed in the NBA last summer. And as a result, successfully went about the business of winning himself a championship and an NBA Finals MVP. We know what a superstar Kevin Durant is. But why do you think people have themselves salivating at the thought of him going against Anthony Davis while Klay Thompson goes against Drew Holiday without the services of Steph Curry? Because we want to see what Kevin Durant is made of. We know he's a superstar talent. We know he's one of the top 3 players on the planet. We know what kind of offensive juggernaut he could be and what he brings to the table. And now he's a champion. What we want to see, however, is, okay, what you going to do now without Steph? That's what we want to see. So those are the question marks. Those are the things you can't get around. Those are the things you can't escape. And that's where we are with it. And so when people look at him and they look at the Instagram post and they're looking at Russell Westbrook, I'm like, hold your horses here. The biggest story in Kevin Durant's departure from OKC is not that he left Russell Westbrook, is that he joined the Warriors. Let's not forget that storyline. You joined a team that was 73-9 the year before, that were making back-to-back appearances in the NBA Finals, whose star was the reigning 2-time league MVP. That's who you joined. That's what can't be escaped. No matter how you slice it, that's the reality. Having said all of that, I got to confess to you, it was hard watching Russell Westbrook last night. He looked erratic. He looked out of control, too hyper, ready to fight everybody. Had me thinking about Cedric the Entertainer with the Kings of Comedy tour. He's sitting up there, oh, he's too violent. I don't like when you talk about we say we ready for a black man to be president at the time. He said, come on, y'all. Come on now. Remember, Kings of Comedy was taped back in 2000. He said, sometimes we be asking for things we ain't ready for. Oh, no, a black president. No, we ain't ready for that. He said the president fight too much. Oh, he just like Anthony Mason because he was doing the Kings of Comedy tour in Charlotte. And Anthony Mason, God rest his soul, good brother, by the way, passed away years ago. That guy was playing for the Charlotte Hornets at that time. So let's understand and make sure we understand where we're coming from. Russell Westbrook looked volatile last night. He looked out of control, slapping away, getting in Rudy Gobert's face, hacking Jay Crowder, being a little extra physical with Ricky Rubio. Russell Westbrook looked completely and utterly out of control. And you need him to be in control if you're OKC to win something. You got Paul George to take care of, Steven Adams to take care of, Carmelo Anthony to take care of. You Russell Westbrook, you got to reel yourself in. You got to dial it down. You got to play with composure. You got to show up in the fourth quarter. But as bad as Russell Westbrook looked, emotionally that is, last night, ladies and gentlemen, it's nothing compared to how Carmelo Anthony looked. I sit here today, a very, very sad individual. Known Carmelo Anthony for 15 years. Got a lot of love for him. One of my greatest wishes in the NBA is to see him in an NBA Finals with a championship on the line and the ball in his hands. I've walked around on several occasions spewing to all of you how much faith I had in him. It's gone now. I don't feel this way anymore. Matter of fact, I'm a bit worried about Carmelo Anthony. That wasn't him who I was watching last night. He seemed distant and ill-equipped to compete last night. Everything was a jump shot. Nothing was post presence at all. A put back layup, he couldn't even get off the floor. Jumpers coming up short, jumpers too long, doesn't seem to have it. Doesn't seem to want it. He actually spent a vast majority of this game last night making Phil Jackson, the Zen master, the 11-time champion as a coach who was absolutely pathetic as an executive for the New York Knicks. He spent practically the entire game last night making Phil Jackson look like a prophet. I almost said Phil Jasner. For those of you who don't know, in the city, if you're in the city of Philadelphia, you know who I'm talking about. He's my former contemporary. He used to work for the Philadelphia Daily News. We competed as beat writers. He passed away several years ago after a long bout with cancer. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful man. I miss him. Did a great job covering the 76ers. Got a lot of love for him. Every time I go to the arena, I think about him. Just wanted to make sure I mention that. And while I'm here in Philadelphia, I got a buddy of mine that lives in San Antonio, Texas. Now he's retired. His name is Mike Bruton. A mentor, a friend, a father figure, one of the greatest men I've ever known. Just want you to know I'm over the airwaves right now. I'm thinking about you, buddy, because I'm in Philadelphia right now for tonight's game. And obviously the success that I've enjoyed as a writer for 17 years at the Philadelphia Inquirer. Greats like Asa Moore, the Philadelphia Inquirer, and Mike Bruton of the Philadelphia Inquirer. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be sitting here today enjoying the success that I enjoy. They took care of me. Took care of me. And God rest Asa Moore's wonderful soul. Mike Bruton's still alive and kicking and enjoying the sunshine and the warm weather in Texas. Back to Philadelphia, where I'm at for tonight's game. I sincerely hope that if this indeed is the last game for Dwayne Wade's career, because I think it's definitely going to be the last game for this season, I sincerely hope he doesn't go out looking like I saw Carmelo Anthony looking like last night. Carmelo Anthony's lackadaisical or porous performance, I'm speaking in terms of lack of aggression, ladies and gentlemen, it's incredibly alarming. And listen, I'm saying this not because he just doesn't look like himself. I'm just saying it because it's inexplicable. It's like either he's given up or Father Time just slapped the living hell out of him all of a sudden last night. Because I couldn't believe how bad he looked. I couldn't believe it. And if he is disinterested, why? Could Russell Westbrook have something to do with that? I don't know. Here's what I will say. Well, and when I bring up Russell Westbrook, I mean Russell Westbrook not necessarily giving him enough touches or whatever the case may be. I don't find that to be an excuse because I don't think that's the case with Russell Westbrook. And I think this is on Billy Donovan as much as it's on anybody else. But I will say this. I watched Jay Crowder bogusly get ejected. He did not deserve to get ejected last night, but he did swing his arm trying to get somebody off of him. He didn't mean to hit anybody with his elbow like he hit Steven Adams, but come on. But he was trying to get Carmelo off of him. No respect. Kevin Durant got in Carmelo Anthony's face earlier this year. No respect. Joel Embiid for the Philadelphia 76ers talked smack to Melo where they played and went into overtime here in Philadelphia earlier this year. No respect. I'm not used to seeing that treatment accorded to Carmelo Anthony, but I'm seeing it now. And I don't know why, but it looks bad.
I'm a one-trick pony, literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter when Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la, aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
A couple of other things. I'll tell you one person that was ecstatic watching what they watched last night. Earvin Magic Johnson. Because if you were Magic Johnson and you were watching Paul George last night, I got to tell you, you said to yourself, ain't no way in hell he's staying in that town. He ain't staying on that team. If you got to remember something. If Paul George were to stay, why would he stay in Oklahoma City? It would be because of A, the money, and B, because they're winning. If they go home in the first round, just like they did last year, what difference does it make? Excuse me. What difference does it make? If I'm Paul George, why do I want to be there? You got to think about these kind of things, ladies and gentlemen. You really, really do. If you're Paul George, why bother? Melo's got to stay because he's making $28 million next year, and he ain't opting out of that deal. So Melo's going to get that money because that money's not going to be anywhere else for him. Melo ain't trying to hear that. So unless Melo gets traded, Melo's going to be right there in OKC because he's going to opt in for that last year for that money. Russell Westbrook is in the midst of his 5-year, $217 million deal. So where's he going? Paul George is a free agent. And Paul George could talk about wanting to stay all he wants to. Let me tell you something. Why would you want to stay? Why would you want to stay? And I'm here to tell you something else right now, too. Don't think it's just Magic Johnson. Think about Jerry West. Jerry West is not playing, y'all. Jerry West is going to come for somebody. He's trying to get his hands on somebody. Don't think for 1 second that that's not the case. Pay attention to it. Understand that Jerry West is going to try to do some things. Do not underestimate this man. DeAndre Jordan, he's going to opt in, player option, $24.1 million. Gallinari's making $21 million. Of course, you're stuck with him. Tobias Harris is $14.8 million. Austin Rivers, he's going to take that $12.2 million he's owed for the last year of his deal. Louis Williams just got a new $24 million deal over 3 years, $8 million per. He just got that. Wesley Johnson making $6 million. Oh, my Lord. I'm just looking at it and I'm saying, look, they can make a move. I don't know what you do with this. Where do you go from this? But it remains to be seen what's going to happen. It is what it is. Patrick Beverly's on the books for $5 million, but that's a team option, not his own. If he's healthy, they'd be stupid to let him go because that brother defends. But here's the deal. Jerry West is always going to try to do something. And what he did was he said, okay, we don't have a star. We can't necessarily get a star here, but what we can do is accumulate the number of bodies so we can have something worthwhile packaging to another team. I still don't think that trumps what Magic has available to him. Magic and the Los Angeles Lakers Kuzma, hold on to him. Brandon Ingram and Julius Randle with Lonzo Ball are nothing to sneeze at. You add a star, who knows what could happen with this team. It's something worth considering. It's something that doesn't need to be ignored. And what's also making this interesting is right now, if you are LeBron James, what do? You don't want to stay in Cleveland. Not with the way these guys have looked the first 4 games in terms of your supporting cast. So everybody's been talking about L.A., right? Because they got space for 2 max contracts. And if you took LeBron and paired him with Paul George and Kuzma and Randall and Lonzo and Brandon Ingram, what do you have? But what if you are LeBron James and you decide, I want to go to Philly? Ladies and gentlemen, LeBron James, listen, Rich Paul is LeBron James' agent. He's also Ben Simmons' agent. He also owns and co-founded Clutch Sports. Well, who the hell you think supported him in that venture? I mean, for all intent and purposes, people have joked around that it's LeBron James representing Ben Simmons. Now, I happen to not believe that because Rich Paul knows what the hell he's doing. But my point is, that's a client. You got Joel Embiid. J.J. Redick in his 1 year at $23 million comes off the books this year. When you look at it from that perspective, Embiid and Ben Simmons are still puppies in all of this. What do you have? What do you have? If you're the Philadelphia 76ers, you got to look at this stuff. There's a reason everybody's talking about complete the process. And don't get me started with that damn process. I had some white dude roll up on me outside in the streets of Philadelphia just 2 hours ago, an hour and a half ago, rather. Sitting there saying to me, why are you ticking Philadelphia off this way, Stephen A? It's very, very simple. I said it before, I'll say it again. What black man alive do you know? What African American alive do you know has the license to lose on purpose for years and keep their job? Any Philadelphian that can come up to me and point that out to me can come to me and talk to me about trust the process. I have no problem with it. But when you clearly invoked a system that caters towards one species in this country and nobody else, I'm not going to like it, and I'm not apologizing for it. So I don't want to ruin anybody's basketball moment. I'm here in Philadelphia looking forward to enjoying the game. Ben Simmons is a superstar in the making. So is Joel Embiid, the best big man in basketball. I get all of that. But when you talk about the process, we ain't talking about what Brian Colangelo has done in adding J.J. Redick and Bellinelli to this team, being a real GM, a real executive. We're talking about an era in which an owner allowed a GM to literally reside in one of the top 5 markets in the United States of America and throw seasons on purpose. I don't know of any black man that has a license to stink and lose on purpose and keep their job. I will never change my mind about how I feel about the process. The process is entirely different than Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons and the actual players that are here performing. Hats off to them. But the process that was implemented and endorsed by this organization and stomached by this city is a national disgrace. And I will never accept it. Like I told my man Mike Missinelli on radio in Philadelphia yesterday, don't get cussed out. I'm done talking about it. That's how I feel about the process. But the 76ers are still real. And oh, by the way, the 76ers are only committed to about $43.2 million in cap dollars. That means the 76ers have plenty of space to go and get LeBron James without giving up any of the players. They don't have to give up Ben Simmons. They don't have to give up Joel Embiid. They don't have to give up Saric. They don't have to give up Covington. They don't have to give up Bellinelli. They don't have to give up Ilyasova. They don't have to give up any of these guys. Hell, they don't even have to give up T.J. McConnell. They have their crew. They are locked and loaded. The Philadelphia 76ers. Bellinelli's a free agent. Bring him back if you can. So is Ilyasova. Bring them both back if you can. I guarantee you'd be able to get them on the cheap if you talked about adding LeBron James and to Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Everybody will want to come to Philly. It's something to think about. It's something to think about. If you are LeBron James, I'm not talking about just basketball, because remember, it looks bad for him to go from Cleveland to Philadelphia. If you are LeBron James, do you join another superstar and go out to L.A. with Kuzma, Randle, Lonzo Ball, and Brandon Ingram? Or do you come to Philadelphia? Or do you go to Houston and join CP3 and James Harden? These are all legitimate questions. What's your answer? That and the rest of the playoff picture to discuss before Todd McShay comes on to begin hour number 2 about the NFL draft. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Don't touch that dial. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. The great Todd McShay, our resident NFL analyst extraordinaire on the NFL draft. He'll be on the show with us to jump off hour number 2. Looking forward to conversing with him. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call until then. That's 888-729-3776. By the way, you got to remember that somebody like Dwayne Wade at this particular juncture, you know, you got Dwayne Wade getting paid a few $1 million, really pretty much over 4 if you're the Miami Heat. Shoot, he can make that much in television. You know, he don't have to put his body through that anymore. He's the 3-time champion. He's got nothing to prove. Westbrook, Oklahoma City Thunder, different matter entirely. To the phones we go at 888-SAY-ESPN. Rob in the Bronx, talk to me. You're live with Stephen A, man. What's up?
Stephen A, what's going on, brother?
I'm good.
You know, it's funny. We have not spoke about Carmelo Anthony since he's left the Knicks because Melo is irrelevant. I'm so glad to see Melo doing that mess that he's doing in OKC than rather a Knick uniform.
Well, I don't take any joy in it. It's personal with me because I got a lot of love for the brother, and I know he can play. You know, I look at him, and I'm like, it's nothing but jump shots. He's not even trying to go to the hole. I can't believe what I'm witnessing. Yeah. And it's so disappointing. I need the aggression. I need something.
Look, Melo, he's not a superstar anymore. Hell, Melo's not even an all-star. He's not even an all-star reserve anymore, Steven.
No, you're right. Well, what's your point?
My point, I feel if Melo wants to rejuvenate his career, Melo should seriously consider coming off the bench.
First of all, stop this. Here's why I'm trying to tell you. It's not about that. Sure, he should come off the bench. Sure, it is not a bad suggestion. I'm just saying the sadness is that the star, the guy that we thought, boy, would we love to see him in the championship round because he could deliver the goods, that don't look like that dude anymore. That's all I'm saying. I mean, it's not like he can't play in the NBA. It's not like he can't go someplace, come off the bench, average 14 to 16 a game. Yeah, Melo could do that, but I'm just saying, this is a guy that was a career 24.7 point per game scorer. This is a guy that some people say he's going to the Hall of Fame, considering his collegiate career in basketball as well. He's going to the Hall of Fame. 3-time Olympian, gold medalist, NCAA champion, one of the prolific scorers in NBA history. It's just not there right now. And it's sad that it happened now, here, when he's got Russell Westbrook and Paul George's teammates. Or maybe it's because of Westbrook. We don't know. Appreciate the call. King in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yeah, Stephen A. I just find it funny that you putting all this pressure on KD, but I need you to have that same energy towards Russell Westbrook, man. Like, he has to be held accountable. The guy said, they asked him, what's your pitch to Paul George for free agent? He said, it's when we win a championship. The guy has gone out and made it seem like he's going to get the job done.
Start right there. Start right there, because I got a question. At any time, did you expect Russell Westbrook and the Oklahoma City Thunder to win a championship?
Of me, but that's my point is
no. I'm asking the questions. You called into my show because I got several of them for you. Did you expect Russell Westbrook to win a championship?
Of course not. I know better.
All
than
right.
that.
Question number 2. What you're saying about him, how erratic he is, out of control, whatever the case may be. Haven't you always said that?
I've always said that.
Okay, number 3. So now we got those 2 points out of the way. So we already know that you didn't expect him to win a championship. You already know that part of the reason because he was erratic and out of control and all of this other stuff. When Kevin Durant steps on the court, what were your expectations?
Oh, we expect him to deliver.
Which is why I once held accountable. If you sat up there, right, and somebody was filling in the Stephen A. Smith show, you expect them to be Stephen A.?
Not at all.
There we go. You see my point? So I'm saying to you, your basketball analysis is on point, man. King, I'm not questioning that. I'm saying to you, you know it. I know it. We've always known it, which is why they weren't a part of the championship equation. So why am I going to get on the man for being exactly what I expected him to be?
I feel like he's a cancer. He's toxic. He's always got.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far, King. You know why? King, when we gonna look at the coaching? You see what Scott Brooks did last year when Kelly Oubre plays 1 minute in Game 7? Or how they looked the first 2 games in the series against Toronto? We had questions about Scott Brooks. We got questions about Billy Donovan right now. How come we can... Look, Larry Brown coached AI. Remember that?
True.
How come we can't find somebody to coach Russell Westbrook? He don't have the talent enough worthy of such a thing?
I think David Fizdale would be a great coach over there.
You know what? That's a damn good idea, King. And if it happens, I'm going to give you all the credit in the world because you're the first person I heard say that. So King in L.A. is going to get credit if David Fizdale ends up being the next head coach of OKC. Hour number 2, no doubt, no doubt. Hour number 2 up next, the great Todd McShay will be on with yours truly. Then we'll continue with our NBA talk. Stick around. It's Stephen A. Hour number 2 in the house.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast. I'm Stephen A.
Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio, which is presented by Progressive Insurance. Protecting your small business is a big deal. Cover what you work so hard for. Visit progressivecommercial.com. As always, it's a great honor to have our next guest, guru on college football, NFL draft, everything in between, the one and only Todd McShay, our resident analyst right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's going on, Todd? How you doing, man?
Good, man. It's getting crazy. We're just a couple days away and starting to hear all sorts of crazy.
That is what I was getting ready to get started with in terms of the craziness of it all. Compare the craziness that you're feeling right now to the craziness you feel around this time every single year. Is there something a little extra special about this particular 2018 NFL draft?
Yeah, 5 quarterbacks. It changes everything, and they're all good quarterbacks too. And I think it depends on, in terms of their success, where they land and how they develop. But I also think people have so many different views. I mean, I talked to Herb Street, Louis Riddick, and they both think Baker Mayfield's the best quarterback in the draft. Kuiper likes Josh Allen. I think Sam Darnold's the best. That's no different than from what we're hearing when we talk to teams in the league. I mean, just because the Browns decide to go with, let's say, Sam Darnold doesn't mean that there weren't people in the building that were pushing hard for Baker Mayfield.
It's interesting that you say that, Todd, because you just said Lewis and Herb Street think Baker Mayfield's the best. Kuiper's at Josh Allen. Your son, Donald. Nobody's mentioned Josh Rosen, but yet we're hearing he has the potential to be picked 3rd by the New York Jets. Why specifically are we not hearing more about Josh Rosen, considering his level of intellect and his ability to throw the football?
I don't know. It's a good question. I've kind of asked myself that in the last few days because I can, with each team, or with each quarterback, I should say, I can find a team or multiple teams where I've heard pretty good information that they're interested. You know, with Cleveland, it's been Allen and Sam Darnold for a long time, and now recently, obviously, the reports of Baker Mayfield. With the Jets, it's been Darnold, but if he's gone, they're really comfortable with it sounding more and more like Mayfield. But Rosen's been kind of the only name attached to it, and that's the only spot where I've heard anything about Rosen. But again, it's more Mayfield recently. With Mayfield, Denver's shown interest. Miami has some interest with Josh Allen. Buffalo Bills, I hear, trying to move up and go get either he or Sam Darnold. So all of these teams seem to have one or two quarterbacks that they've narrowed down. And with Rosen, the Jets are really the only team I've heard with specific interest in him. Now, I think he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback. This is the first year I've given 4 first-round grades to quarterbacks, and I have an early second-round grade on Lamar Jackson, and I think he's going to go in the first. And if he winds up in the right situation, I think that he can be a star at the next level. But with Rosen specifically, I think he's the most NFL-ready of these guys. And I think the intelligence is not something that I look down upon or negatively at. I look at it as you better have someone in the room that can match that intelligence. And if you do, you get a chance to do something really special. Now, Rosen's slight framed a little bit. He's had some durability issues. That's, to me, is the biggest knock with him. But if you put him in a system where he can be a distributor and get the ball out and has some protection and some weapons, this guy's got a chance to be, I would say he could easily. It wouldn't shock me at all 5 years from now if we look back and say, you know what, Rosen's been the best so far.
With that being said, Todd McShay, why is Sam Darnold your guy then at number one in terms of the first grade?
I think he's a magician, man. I think when you look at what he does, first of all, just his competitive background. He's the youngest quarterback coming into the draft. He's 20 and 4 as a starter the last 2 years, but he really only played one full year of quarterback in high school and 2 seasons in college, and he's developed to this point. And so a guy who was a 3-sport athlete in high school, he didn't grow up in these quarterback camps and working mechanics and drills 365 days a year. He's just a competitor. And you see it in fourth quarters. You saw it in that Penn State Bowl win. You see it when you study the Texas tape, how he plays in the fourth quarter of that game, how he played against Utah in the fourth quarter of that game. I mean, nothing phases him. And then inside the pocket, he can make all the throws, but then what he does is he extends plays better than anyone in this group, I would say, of the top 4 quarterbacks, including Baker Mayfield. I think he's a better athlete, and I think he has a better feel for pressure coming. And some of the throws that he makes are really unique, and I think they translate to the next level.
We're talking Todd McShay right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Looking at the news wise, it's saying that suddenly the Browns are now considering Baker Mayfield as the with the number 1 overall pick. How the hell did that happen? Nobody was talking about Baker Mayfield as a number 1 all of these months. Now suddenly, 2 days before the NFL draft, Baker Mayfield has ascended, has leapfrogged over a Josh Rosen, at least potentially. Then you definitely, when it comes to Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, you look at that and you say, wait a minute, now it's Baker Mayfield. How did that happen?
Well, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you look at the kind of recent reports that the Jets are leaning towards Baker Mayfield if Sam Darnold's not available, and then all of a sudden this information comes out. I heard it. I heard from somebody yesterday who said, don't rule out Mayfield, and I mentioned it to Kuiper in our first draft podcast, but I didn't really take it all that seriously. And then when Schefter reports it, then you gotta take it a little bit more seriously. I mean, that's basically how it works. And listen, I think there are guys in that building that have a say, but don't have final say, that like Baker Mayfield. I don't know what John Dorsey, the GM, likes and who he's going to eventually take. But what can happen is you've got a new coordinator in Todd Haley. You've got a Hugh Jackson who's had some success in the past with some quarterbacks. Whether he's a whisperer or not, I don't tend to buy that. But the bottom line is he has an opinion. Ken Zampese, the new quarterbacks coach, has an opinion. They brought in Scott McCloughan, a special assistant to the general manager. He has an opinion. So all of these guys have opinions. And if one of them talks to one person outside of the organization, that's how something like this can spread. I'm not saying they won't take Baker Mayfield, but I think when you look at it, it's very easy for a little bit of information to get leaked and for someone to make a big deal out of that. And I also think, again, conspiracy theorists, maybe they're saying, let's dangle this out there. If the Jets really do like Baker Mayfield and they feel threatened by us taking him at number 1, then maybe they'll offer us a deal to move up a couple spots and take him at 1 and secure him.
Todd McShay right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, just a couple of days removed from the 2018 NFL Draft in Dallas, Texas. Everybody's looking forward to that, no question about it. We've talked about quarterbacks. We haven't said as much about Saquon Barkley over the last couple of weeks or so, and he could go as high as 1. He could fall as low as 5. Where are things with him right now as it pertains to where or what people believe will be the likely landing spot?
I would be very, very surprised if he's not picked at number 2 by the Giants or number 4 by the Browns with their second of 2 first-round picks. I think he's the best player in this draft. I know he's a running back, but you know what? I think we need to stop looking at things the same way we've always looked at them. And look at the last few years, and from Todd Gurley to Ezekiel Elliott, last year Leonard Fournette. These guys are coming in, and if you commit to running the football as an organization, and you make him a focus, and you get this guy involved in the passing game, you're talking about a weapon that's more important than wide receiver. And wide receivers, look at the last few years, 2014, 15, 16, 17, the first-round receivers have been a joke. I mean, guys they don't know how to run routes. They come from these spread offenses. So I think teams in the league are looking at it saying, you know what, we can get the ball in this guy's hands 20, 25, 30 times a game. We can't do that. We can't be assured that we can do that at the wide receiver position. So I think it's shifted a little bit. Even though it's still a pass-happy league, these running backs, if you are focused on it and committed to it, New England Patriots, they just wouldn't do it. It doesn't make sense for what they want to do. But a lot of teams in the league are focusing more on running back now because you can get the ball in those guys' hands.
Todd McShay right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. I'm looking at Saquon Barkley, and I want to know, how much do you believe Ezekiel Elliott's presence has helped? This notion that he could go as high as number 1 or number 2, simply because you see the impact that Ezekiel Elliott has had on the Dallas Cowboys. When he's on the field, They win games. When he's not, they tend to struggle.
Yeah, and I think Todd Gurley, as I mentioned, is part of it. And I also think, look, you have to have quality quarterback play. If you're going to draft a guy, you better have the offensive line at least, in solid standing or building towards it. And I think for the Giants, that's been the focus this offseason. They've just shredded that offensive line, and it sounds like they're trying to get rid of Eric Flowers now too, the left tackle who's moved to right tackle since they brought in Nate Solder, and he may not be the guy. So I think if the Giants pull the trigger there, in part it will be because they need balance with Eli. They want to be a run-first team. They play in poor weather. They've got a receiver who can get vertical. They've got a tight end who can get vertical. And now that they want to add another piece in terms of weaponry to that offense and also balance things out by running the football more consistently and being better on defense. So to me, it makes sense if they go that route, but it still won't shock me if they take Bradley Chubb because that's –
I was getting ready to ask. That's where I was getting ready to go. I was wondering whether or not there's no shot at all they're going to take a Bradley Chubb, huh? That's what I was going to ask.
Listen, I've talked to 2 GMs in the last 2 weeks who both, when asked, when we go back and forth and go through the mock draft a little bit and just talk about who could go where because they're trying to get a sense of how the board's going to fall. And both times when I mentioned that I thought the Giants were going to wind up taking Barkley, both of the GMs, 2 other GMs in the league were surprised, and one of them was floored. He said, I don't understand that. Why would pass rushers become the number 2 most important the second most important position in the NFL behind quarterback. And so you can lock that guy up for 5 years and get him at a really low price. So, again, the Giants could very easily take Chubb. I've just been told that there's some strong opinions and voices in that building that are pushing for Barkley. I don't know if they'll wind up going that route, but it seems like there's a real strong push for Barkley, but also it makes football sense to take a pass rusher number 2 if you're not taking a quarterback.
Last quick question for you. When you look at this draft, who's the team we should be watching out for most in terms of the team that might pull off a heist, pull off a big surprise? Who should we be keeping our eyes on?
I think the Buffalo Bills are the most likely to move up. And I think the Indianapolis Colts and Denver Broncos are the most likely to move back. And I think the Colts, we all know that the Browns, this is a make-or-break draft for them with all the picks they have, 4 in the top 35, I think. But the Colts, if you look at what they're dealing with as well, and getting Andrew Luck back, if he's anywhere close to 100%, now you got pick 6, 36, 37, 49, and 67. You're talking about 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, first 67 overall. And they may even move back from 6 a little bit to get 1 or 2 more picks in a draft that is loaded in the 2nd and 3rd round. So this could be the draft that we look back on 2 years down the road and say, you know what, the Colts finally turn things around with a new general manager, and we're able to get some real legitimate talent around Andrew Luck.
Todd McShay, man, get back to work, buddy. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Looking forward to watching you NFL Draft Night this Thursday night. Thanks so much, buddy.
Anytime, my man. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. The one and only Todd McShay, NFL insider and analyst on the NFL Draft. He's right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. 888-729-3776. It's 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call up. Woo! This is getting thick, y'all. This is getting real thick. By the way, just as a reminder, go and download the latest First Draft podcast with Todd McShay and Mel Kiper. Want to make sure I reminded y'all of that. And before I forget, let me also add this. Being a mom is like 1,000 little jobs all wrapped up into one. This Mother's Day, show her your appreciation with 36 sorbet roses for just $36 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click the radio icon, and enter code Stephen A. That's with a PH, not a V. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's the number to call up. That's 888-729-3776. Joey in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A., 2 days away from the NFL Draft.
I know. Go ahead.
It's exciting. I agree with McShay. We're going to...
I was getting ready to say you're stalling. You need to get to your point. I don't like. I catch that from callers sometimes. Y'all ain't ready when I call y'all to be on the line, so you stall with the pleasantries. Be ready. Let's go.
I'm not buying the Baker Mayfield going number 1 to Cleveland.
Okay. So what do you think is going on? What do you think is going on, Joey?
Stephen, to tell you the truth, I don't know. I have never been so confused going into an NFL.
There's only one other reason. If they don't want Baker Mayfield, there's only one other reason why his name would be in the mix at this particular juncture as the number 1 overall pick. They're trying to get somebody to trade down. To trade up. I'm sorry. That's it.
To trade up.
To trade up to get to trade up. Say what? Potentially. What about Denver?
They just locked in Keenum for $18 million a year for the next 2 years.
I understand that, but it might not be a quarterback who you never know.
You never do know is right. I just hope that Barkley is available at number 2 for my New York Giants.
I got you. And listen, the Giants the Giants have the hardest situation in the draft. As far as I'm concerned, if you're the Cleveland Browns, there's a very good chance that in the top 4 picks, you'll end up with a quarterback and Saquon Barkley. And if you pulled that off, you've won. If you're the New York Giants, here's my issue. What are you going to do? Yeah, you take Saquon Barkley, but then you're saying we got faith in Eli Manning, who's got 2 years max. And then you missed out on drafting a quarterback, which is the most important position on a football field. Plus, you passed up on a premier defensive end because Bradley Chubb is considered a monster who can do some things for you. Then you got to take into account the division that they're playing in. The Philadelphia Eagles are the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. The Dallas Cowboys have Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott, and they've gotten rid of supposedly Des Bryant in terms of, he was the negative effect on this locker room, which I'm not buying. And, the Redskins are kind of irrelevant, but we all know that competition in the NFC East is stiff. You're the New York Giants. You got to make sure you addressed not just a significant need, but a need that addresses multiple needs. You got to remember, with Saquon Barkley, you not only have an elite runner, he's a pass catcher out of the backfield who also blocks and protects his quarterback. That's helpful. You go Quentin Nelson, that's a guard out of Notre Dame. That's just protecting your quarterback and helping the running game. Bradley Chubb, you're just going after the quarterback. But what if Barkley isn't there for you to take? What if the Cleveland Browns don't feel high about any of the quarterbacks and they know they'll get one of them because they have the number 1 overall pick, so there's only 2 picks after that. So if you feel like 3 quarterbacks are on the same level, then you're assured of getting one of them because you have the 4th pick. So you could grab Saquon Barkley with the number 1 overall pick. I don't know. It's getting very interesting. That much I will admit. Kevin in Pennsylvania, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen. Man, following the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Talk to me.
Hey, I got a couple things I want to say. First off, I want to say, do you think the Browns kind of dictate what the Giants do? Because I feel like the Giants really want Sam Darnold, but if the Browns take him first, they're going to steal Barkley. How do you feel about that?
Well, the only thing that I can say to you is you're absolutely right, unless they pick a player that the Giants didn't care about anyway. Like if the Giants absolutely positively know, listen, this is, if I'm the Giants, this is how I have peace of mind. I have my top 2 picks that I'm absolutely not passing on in the draft. And I'm assured of getting one of them. Simple.
Yep.
Now, if one is head and shoulders above the rest, I got to do everything I can to hide it. Now, Dave Gettleman talking to the media, raving about the fact that he loves how in the dark everybody is about what's going to happen in the draft. Well, you got the number 2 overall pick. Where the hell is the suspense? Yes, we should be suspenseful, but you? The bottom line is you got 1 or 2 players. You highlight 2 players that are can't miss prospects. One of them you better get. Period.
Yep, that's true. The second thing I want to say was Skip Bayless averaged 1.4 points per game in high school.
So, why did you bring that up? So what? He's not some professional athlete or whatever. I tell you this much, he averaged a hell of a lot better than that as a journalist and a columnist and now a television host. I promise you that. Idiot. Fidel in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up?
What's up, Stephen? How you doing?
I'm good. Talk to me.
All right, so basically, man, I think that this whole Russell Westbrook thing, I don't want to beat on a drum and how the expression is, but I don't think he's a great player. I heard you say that a week and a half ago. You actually said that we need to appreciate him more so than we have.
You don't think that Russell Westbrook is a great player?
Let me just finish my point. And then you can go
Hold on, whoa. No, that doesn't happen on the Stephen A. Smith Show. You don't get to be an idiot and then I'll let you finish your point. I want you to repeat yourself. You don't think that Russell Westbrook is a great player?
I'm going to repeat myself and I'm going to explain why. I don't believe Russell Westbrook is a great player because, in my opinion, a great player produces wins. A great player makes his other players better around him.
Can I ask you a question? I got it. Fair enough. Was Charles Barkley a great player?
Yeah, he's a great player, but he still went to the finals.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, Russell Westbrook's been in the finals, and he's been in 4 conference finals.
He didn't lead his team to the finals.
Oh, I see. So now it's lead the team. Now, first you get one category. I answer your question, and then you add to that. You see how weak your argument is? So Charles Barkley, okay? Reggie Miller, great player?
Sure, yeah, Reggie Miller's a great player.
All right. He's got a championship? Karl Malone. How about Karl Malone? Was Karl Malone the leader of the Utah Jazz?
Yes, he was.
No, he was not. John Stockton was. That is a lie. That is a flat-out lie.
Malone was.
Goodbye. Bye. I don't have to deal with ignorance. You can't call up to my show, be completely ignorant about basketball, just say stuff, probably because you want a headline and I'm going to entertain you. I'm not doing it. He just finished saying Karl Malone was the leader of the Utah Jazz. It wasn't John Stockton. It wasn't John Stockton, who was a gold medalist and Olympian, who happened to be the point guard. Went to back-to-back NBA finals. One of the greatest point guards in the history of the National Basketball Association. It wasn't him. It was Karl Malone. Really? See, it's that kind of ignorance I don't have patience for. I don't have it, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have the patience. I'm not going to sit up there and tolerate callers pretending like they know, trying to speak all eloquently and, and smooth like they're an authority on the sport and they say something that damn ignorant. No, I'm not listening to that. Absolutely not.
Next, you're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie, this does look fun. You melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Coming at you live today from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Site of tonight's encounter, Game 5, Eastern Conference first round. Philadelphia 76ers versus the Miami Heat. Philadelphia is up 3-1 in this series. Went to Miami after losing Game 2 courtesy of a 28-point explosion from Dwayne Wade. And they won Games 3 and 4 in South Beach. For a young team to go to South Beach and win both games, that is huge, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm here to tell you something right now. There's a lot of distractions in South Beach. To be young and to win in South Beach, that's a big deal. That's a very, very big deal. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I believe the Miami Heat will lose tonight. I think the Sixers will close this series out. And even though I can't guarantee it, I think the potential is there for this to be the very last game of Dwayne Wade's illustrious career. Just want y'all to know that. Mel in Queens, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A? I just want to say that, I listen to your radio show. I watch you on First. I see you on ESPN a lot of places, and I respect what you do. One thing I would say that your intro that you had to start the show was a classic, and Russell Westbrook owe you lunch or a gift or something, because the way you wrapped it up and threw Kevin Durant and Melo and all of them into this, to kind of you mentioned Westbrook, but I don't think you kind of dug deep enough about it, and it just shows you can do whatever you want. But the reality is this. I look at like Russell Westbrook as a type of player who's a good player. I'll give him that. He's not a leader at all. And the only reason why we are talking about Westbrook the way we are now is because Kevin Durant left. When Kevin Durant was in OKC, all we heard about the erratic Westbrook or everything he was doing, nobody was having that love for Westbrook. The minute Kevin Durant left, people got mad because he went to the Warriors. Now we got this love fest. Now, in the regular season,
hold it. Are you implying that folks stopped talking about how erratic Russell Westbrook was once Kevin Durant left?
No, what I'm implying is that I heard you on First Take and other places, when you imply Westbrook in the same sentence with a Michael Jordan, talk about this killer and all this stuff. It sounds good.
Hold it. I mentioned him in the same breath as the greatest player who ever lived, when for years and years and years, I've said that Russell Westbrook is the most athletic point guard that we've ever seen. He's unstoppable, but he's too damn erratic, and he would be better off at the two. That's been my consistent critique about Russell Westbrook for his entire career. And now you're accusing me of mentioning him and Michael Jordan in the same breath.
Yo, you were talking about, he's this killer, and he's the most ferocious player since Michael Jordan.
I said he's the most volatile player in the modern era, which is true.
What? When you say volatile, that sounds good, but that don't mean anything when you're losing. Well, you can't carry
but wait a minute, Mel. Because, you're about to get hung up on. See, these are the problems. Because y'all try to misconstrue my argument. I never said OKC was winning anything. A matter of fact, I said he was one of the reasons they would lose. So my point is, if I say that they're going to lose, and I never mention them in the championship equation, and I point out how erratic he can be, but I also recognize that the man averaged a triple-double for a couple of years, and it's something that everybody can't do. And the fact is that this guy as an individual talent is unstoppable, but there's too many problems that come along with him. Okay? That is a critique. That is an accurate critique and depiction. The way you and that previous idiot who called up to this show, what y'all try to do is act like I said Russell Westbrook's a winner. Russell Westbrook is a guy that can lead you to a championship. Russell Westbrook doesn't need any help and all of this other stuff. I bring out Kevin Durant as the focal point because Kevin Durant is one of the top 3 players on the planet who was up 3-1. Russell Westbrook was his teammate. That same erratic, out of control, eccentric point guard that really isn't a point guard was good enough to get you through the first round, the second round, and to the Western Conference Finals, a Game 7 for a 4th time in his career. If you're that dude, which is Kevin Durant, I understand all the hiccups that he brings to the table. How come you can't win anyway if you can get that far?
Because of Westbrook. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Westbrook was the reason they didn't win. He's erratic. I watched him in Miami.
What did Kevin Durant do Game 6 against the Golden State Warriors? Speak up.
He had a bad game. Kevin Durant had a bad game. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute now. That's Game 6 after you're up 3-1. That's a chance right there. And you know they were good enough to beat Cleveland. So if you got a Game 6, you up 3-1, you lose the Game 5. Kevin Durant, what did he do in Game 6? You said he had a bad game, and that just gets dismissed?
No, I'm saying it's because of Westbrook. I'm trying to tell you. I watched the game. I feel like Westbrook hold players back. He hinders players. Look at Oladipo. Look at Carmelo.
No. I agree with that. No. I agree with that, Mel. But I'm saying Game 6 was on Russell Westbrook.
No, but that's one game.
But that one game matters. That's a trip to the finals. That's a trip to the finals.
Off the ball, that series.
Got you. Bye, Mel. Have a nice day. I got Mel's point, but we'd be here arguing all day, and I can't get to the other callers. But his points were valid. I disagree with some of them, but they were valid. I won't disrespect him like that. Paul in Georgia, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A., how's it going? We talked for a minute yesterday.
Go ahead, man.
So getting back to Jay Feely, you made a couple of statements right at the end of the call that I didn't have a chance to respond to. You asked, where was I 15 years ago? And to that, I would say I was a very, very different person 15 years ago. I'm very glad that I have changed and evolved and learned some things in the last 15 years, such as there are certain things that even when you joke about.
Hold on. I remember you. Give me a second. Let me inform my listeners of what you're talking about. Yesterday, to my audience out here, I went off about how this whole Jay Feely situation, he was a kicker in the NFL. He's now a broadcaster for CBS. His daughter was going out to her high school prom. He took a picture. He was in the middle of her and her boyfriend. His daughter was on his left. He had his left arm wrapped around her. The boyfriend was next to him on the right. He had a gun in his hand. And he says, I'm wishing my daughter a good night out at the prom on his Instagram post with the gun in his hand, hanging down. And it said hashtag Bad Boys, which was from the Bad Boys movie with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. Is scaring the living daylights out of a kid that had come to see his daughter, to take his daughter out. That's what Paul was talking about. Paul had a problem with the photo with Jay Feely doing that. I thought it was completely overblown. I felt that there was absolutely positively nothing for Jay Feely to apologize for. Paul disagreed, and here we are. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, so you also said yesterday before I got on that you are kind of in the middle with some issues, but you stand behind the Parkland kids and what they're trying to do. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, where does it start? It usually starts with awareness. Anytime you have a cause, you want a little awareness. And what you hope to do with some of that awareness is to change attitudes, possibly change some behaviors. Mm-hmm. And I think that this attitude that it's always, it's cool to make a joke about shooting somebody is for some people problematic, and they got a problem with that.
Yeah, but my argument with you is that you're looking at him making a joke about shooting somebody. I look at him making a joke as a father about, look, these are the kind of things that'll happen to you if you harm my daughter. Right, so in other words, it's parsing it. I get that, but I don't look at it quite the way that you do. And I think a lot of people don't look at it quite the way that you do. You're saying shooting somebody. I'm saying my daughter. You take my daughter out and my daughter doesn't come back, and my daughter comes back harmed, you're going to have a problem. And that, to me, is something that's very, very predictable in the mindset of a father. And that's how I took it. You're looking at the gun. I'm looking at the daughter out with some dude. You know, some little dude, some little young whippersnapper that might have less than honorable intentions, dare I say, about my little girl. That's an entirely different thing to look at it. That's my point. It wasn't about the guns. It was about, this is my daughter. You better bring her back home safe and sound and completely and totally unharmed, or else. That's how people look at it.
Stephen A.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. You also said I probably don't have daughters. I have 2 daughters, and I don't think it's necessary since the day my children were born, people have been making jokes about, oh, my God, she's beautiful. You're going to be in so much trouble when she gets older.
Okay.
And it's just constantly, since the day my daughter was born, making jokes about how every dude that ever sees her is going to try to jump her bones.
Okay, and your response to that is what?
Why are you sexualizing my infant all the way through her entire life.
Are you really asking me that question? Did you really just ask that question? You know what? I'm going to do something I haven't done in a long time. Can you do me a favor? Because we have a break that we have to go to, Paul, and it's going to be a few minutes. I want you to hold on. I don't want you to hang up, Paul. I want you to hold on so I can answer that question directly that you just asked. You said, oh, my God, why are you sexualizing my daughter? Was that your question? Is that what you asked?
Yes. Could
you stay right there? Could you stay right there so I can come right back to you after this break?
You got it.
Please. We're going to be right back with Paul. Oh, I can't wait to answer that question. Back with more of the Stephen A. Smith Show in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! This Mother's Day, show her your appreciation with 36 sorbet roses for just $36 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Also, introducing the all-new ESPN app now with ESPN Plus. What's ESPN Plus? It's ESPN's new streaming service available right in the ESPN app. With ESPN Plus for just $4.99 per month, you get thousands of live sporting events, including MLB, NHL, MLS, and top-ranked boxing, and a full library of movies and documentaries, including the entire 30 for 30 collection. And our listeners can take advantage of a 7-day free trial on ESPN Plus by signing up within the ESPN app today. The all-new ESPN app featuring ESPN Plus. Check it out today. Paul, are you still there? Let me answer your question real quick. First of all, two things.
Okay.
I think you're taking it a little bit too literal. When you talk about folks sexualizing your daughters, I'm imagining that they're relatively young. I'm assuming. I don't know. But I think you're taking it a little bit too literal. But number two, let me say this. While I would like to believe we live in a society that would be decent enough not to sexualize a child, ultimately, we live in a sexualized society. Male, correct. Female, men on women, women on men, women on women, men on men. Everything seems to be sexualized. That's the world that we're living in. So when you say something like that, why are you sexualizing my child? If they're young and a toddler or a child, you might be being a bit extreme. If they're a young adult, chances are they have been sexualized. We're not defending it. It's obviously a problem that exists in our nation. But nevertheless, people do it because you see something. The visual eyes is very gravitating. What's visual to the eye is very gravitating, and people succumb to that. Hey, listen, empires have been brought down by the opposite sex. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, absolutely.
Go ahead.
And I agree with what you're saying right now.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, what I'm saying is, first of all, it was about, the gun, and so we took away the gun, so now it's about the girl, right? So I'm saying I still have a problem with that. Because he's playing into this game that my daughter is an object of sexual lust.
Stop right there. Why do you think the kid wants to go out with your daughter?
Yes, of course. So why is the dad gonna play into that joke and go along with that joke?
Oh no, because part of him is serious, not about actually shooting him, but it is about saying no harm better come to my daughter. Let me ask you a question. You're married. Are you married, sir? I'm assuming. Are you married?
Yes, sir.
You're married?
Yes.
Happily married?
Yes.
Happily married?
Yes. Yes.
You with your wife just because of her glowing personality?
Man, she's a knockout, Stephen A.
Thank you. Come on, Paul. Come with me. Come home with me, Paul. Come on home with me. Come on home to this line of thinking. You know what I'm saying.
Okay.
Come on, Paul.
Let me just ask you one little thing, okay?
Okay, but tell my audience I'm right about this part, Paul. Come on now. Okay. It ain't just her glowing personality. Your wife's a knockout. Did you just say that?
Oh, you damn right, my friend. Yes, sir.
Come on, buddy. There you go.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm proud of you, Paul. Now make your last point. Go ahead.
All right. My last point is I don't think it's outrageous that some people, such as Stu Gatz, who's from Parkland, Florida, could think that picture wasn't funny, that it was stupid, and that's my point.
Okay, well, that's I understand. I understand the thinking that it may not have been funny, particularly in the days and the times that we're living in. I do understand that. And there's a heightened level of sensitivity. I understand that. But I'm talking about painting it with a broad brush and acting like, oh my Lord, that picture is off, or a joke like that. There's no place for it ever. We need to pump the brakes on that a little bit. But Paul, I gotta go, and I want you to feel free to call me on this show anytime you want, because I like you, Paul. You understand? Despite your conviction, you still admitted your wife was a knockout, which means you sexualized her, and we have no problem with you for it. Talk to you tomorrow. Peace and love.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.